Back to Tuxes and Tomahawks. My name is Adam Dorito. I am a paratrooper, I am a farmer, and I'm an oil and gas worker in the state of Colorado. And this season, I've really taken an interest in political candidates, and I've offered to bring any political candidate from any party and anywhere in the state of Colorado to come on and talk about the issues. And I've been traveling around the country working on my federal legislation with the Air Force Academy. I've been in D.C. Ironically, I crossed paths with Ron Hanks when I was out there, and then I was out here working for the Veterans for Trump guys and Paul Ingracia and Mike Crispy. And ironically, Ron Hanks was also in New Jersey. I came back from my mom's house. I was over in Chester. I go through the door and I'm like, Ron, what the hell? I just saw you last week. What are you doing here? He's putting in the work. He's traveling around the country, and he's really caring about what's going on in America. And Ron, I just want to thank you last minute for joining me in this hotel room this morning and trying to knock this out, because I know you have a really contentious race right now, and like it's coming down to the wire for the primary in the state. So tell me about all the work you're doing. Like, what made you even want to get involved in politics? Where did you come from? I mean, we don't even really know each other, Ron. I know you're an intel guy, so am I, but who is Ron Hanks?
Well, that's an interesting start point. And by the way, this looks like a world-class studio to me compared to, so you did great bringing all this with you. Look, the reason I'm in the race in CD3 is because Lauren Boebert moved over to CD4, and folks said, Hanks, we need to keep this seat conservative. Would you consider running? Now, I really didn't figure I was in the running this cycle and may not run again, but how do you say no to people asking when they're in the fight, when Donald Trump is in the fight and doesn't have to be? It kind of hits the old heartstrings and the military creed, doesn't it? Where, you don't leave your buddies behind. So I'm in the race. It is an interesting race. I think grassroots is way ahead in this race, and that is evidenced by the Speaker's Conservative Leadership Fund, or PAC. It's CLF anyway. Putting in $500,000 into this race in the last week. And the really disturbing thing about the efforts of the establishment deep state Republicans is they are liars. They are as bad or worse liars in this race than the Democrats have been. And that is a disheartening piece of information, I think, for many people. They flat lied about my record about being anti-2A, for instance. And, there's nobody that's worked harder on 2A at the State House or that promotes it more as an individual. I can hit steel at a mile. I've been NRA certified as a plate shooter at a mile. It's not like I just screw around with this or it's a part-time attention. No. And this is coming from the Republicans, not the Democrats, that I'm anti-2A. It's lies. It's meant to break apart the grassroots. I don't think they're going to fall for it. I think we recognize now the enemy is also in our camp, in the Republican Party.
So this is interesting, Ron. What I don't understand, like, let's be honest, I'm from New Jersey. That's why I'm out here. I actually brought this entire studio with me because I was interviewing one of my best friends who has a very successful restaurant here in upper state New York. And I'm not going to lie. When I was 18, I was a registered Democrat in New Jersey. I had no idea what politics was. I grew up here. I didn't know any better. It was like the old school old school Democrats out here. Mm-hmm. I mean, when I went to the Air Force Academy, I moved out there in 2006, and I'm like, oh my God, I can have guns. Look at all the land. Look at all the freedom. I'm not used to things being on top of each other like it is here. And when I started getting involved in federal politics 14 years ago, doing military legislation reform, because our military does need help. We need a president that fights for our veterans and fights what's all the crazy woke stuff that's going on in the military. Right. And that's what I do. So when I started getting involved in local politics this year, some of the Trump guys were like, hey, maybe you should get involved in local politics. And I'm like, all right, I'll dabble in it. And I thought there was a unification in the Republican Party. I thought Colorado was Republicans versus liberal Democrats in Denver and Boulder. And although that's part of the case, what I've realized is that the problem with the Republicans in the state of Colorado is the Republicans. And there's this establishment GOP that is actively working against good America First conservatives in the state to ensure that people like you who actually care about American values, who care about Second Amendment rights, that you're a constitutionalist, a Christian, a conservative, and a conservationist, right? Our water and our land is so important in Colorado. And these people are actively censoring you. And then they started censoring me, and I'm a nobody. I'm just some random, E5 sergeant who's worked in the Army and the Reserve and the Guard, and ironically, even like Jason Crow, like he sent us out on the National Guard to come out here for January 6th. And last night we were at that event, right? And you see the effects of what lawfare has on these people and what misinformation and propaganda and disinformation campaigns, and you see it in real time. And why is Colorado so divided with this, and why can't we unify? And why are they trying to censor people like you from serving in politics?
Well, it's an interesting time. They're fighting. The establishment is fighting for their claw hold on Colorado, and frankly, they're losing it. And that you can see that in the desperate attempt here with the Speaker's Fund now coming after us. But the establishment has owned the party for a long time and in many states, and this grassroots insurgency is gaining a lot of ground and traction. But look at who the party supported in 2022. They would prefer a petition-on candidate that hides from the voters, takes the roundabout way, doesn't come through caucus and assembly where people can actually figure out, well, he's not really a Republican. He's pro-abortion. He's likes the $1.9 trillion in spending on infrastructure because he happens to be in the infrastructure industry. And he also writes checks to the Colorado Republican Party. And that's what they focused on, was how much can he pay our bills for us? And that's who we had before. But right now, Adam, we have an awesome opportunity. Ken Buck quit on us, of course, as you know, just walked away from D.C.
He didn't do me any favors. When I worked on field legislation, like for the Air Force Academy, Ken Buck and Doug Lamborn did absolutely nothing. And why do we want more lame duck Republicans like those two,
Well, here's the thing. This is the opportunity for us to get Dave Williams, a good pro-Trump conservative. Lauren Boebert has shifted from 3 to 4. She will likely win her race. And then I am a pro-Trump warrior from 2022. Served under him, by the way, in the military. He was my last commander-in-chief when I retired. And all I want to do is help the president's agenda, drain the swamp, and that's what I will do. That's what Dave Williams will do. That's what Boebert will do in 4. And this is the last gasp of a dying regime, as you'll hear Steve Bannon say repeatedly. Sometimes it feels like they're clawing back and getting another grip on our throats. But I think the grassroots in Colorado is ready to figure out that they've been lied to by establishment Republicans. And it is a treachery that is much worse than even the Democrats, because they're wearing the same uniform we wear. They're in the same trench and foxhole with us. We're trusting them, and then they stick us in the back with a shiv, and that is treasonous. And I think the grassroots, this is their moment to really figure this out, sound out this problem, and let's vote for some good, solid conservatives for a change.
And I think you're right there, because there are so many people who feel like their voices are unheard in Colorado. I mean, there's very densely populated areas in Denver and Boulder, and maybe the Springs in the military industrial area. But for the most part, our farmers and ranchers out in Gunnison and on the Western Slope, they're so unheard. They feel like they're irrelevant. They feel like no matter what they vote and what they do, that they're never going to have an impact. And I disagree. I mean, I think we can outnumber them. I myself live in a rural county. I was in District 4. I came back from deployment in CENTCOM. Magically, I'm redistricted and gerrymandered into 8, and I'm represented by a Democrat now. And now I feel like my voice is unheard. But what I see is that you're putting in the work. You're going out and having the conversations. You're traveling around the country. You're making an effort to do these things. I just don't see that from other candidates. Mm-hmm. And one of the worst disinformation things I see going out there are these BS mailers. I mean, I use them to start my burn barrel outside my property now, but the Republicans and the establishment are so focused on burning you to the ground, or vice versa. I see it in other races too, especially in like CD4 and CD5 as well, obviously, with Dave Williams, but they're not focusing on the people and the issues. Our issues are ranching, our water rights, especially we're a dry, arid climate. And not losing our power with Space Command. We have Space Command out here, massively important for national defense. Weld County alone produces 80% of the oil and gas out here, right? And you are trying to fight, and we have a massive oil and gas industry in the Western Slope. I used to drill out there, out in Grand Junction and everything else. And nobody's talking about what Coloradans care about. They're so worried about infighting and destroying you and not talking about what the people matter. And that's like old politics stuff that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So for you, what do you think are the biggest issues in your district that you're running for? And what do the people care about the most that you hear on the ground talking to these people?
Well, that's a huge lead into a lot of issues, but I'll tell you, I worked oil and gas myself when I wasn't working for the Air Force, so I have an understanding of that from the blue-collar side of it. I'm not a desk jockey or a so-called energy lawyer like Jeff Hurd. I don't know what his lawyering is doing for us. Somebody, I think one of his bland ads said, I'm helping keep energy prices low, and the response of the grassroots to that is, well, my bill keeps going up, so who exactly is he keeping prices low for? It's a total fraud.
And I'll just chime in on that for a second. I work for the refinery in Denver, and he's full of shit because we are the only refinery in the state of Colorado. We run all the fuel in the state of Colorado. Most of it comes from Weld County. A lot of it, and we ship every day. We ship like 40 rail cars of propane, diesel, fuel, and gasoline to Grand Junction because they lost a lot of their energy industry out there because of local politics and environmentalists, right? So he's completely full of shit.
Well, and you make a very good point to what they're trying to do in Craig up in Moffat County. We've got a 1,400 megawatt coal plant, cleanest coal on the planet in that strip of Colorado in the 3rd CD. And they want to tear this coal plant down. That's a huge, huge hit. They don't want to just mothball it. They want to tear it down.
So I think, and if you remember this, they tried doing this BS with the biomass energy plant up in the ski resort area, right? They were trying to, Excel Energy built a beetle kill, basically burning facility so they could take all the collapsed wood, burn it down, and then generate electricity and then supplement it with natural gas. And then the environmentalists said, well, you guys are causing more air pollution, so they shut it down. And now they have to pipe in more expensive energy from elsewhere because the demand doesn't go away. The people in Colorado, the ski resorts, all those mountain towns where when it's outside of ski season, life's rough.
Yeah.
Life's rough up there. And these people are intentionally sabotaging our own critical infrastructure on the claims of environmentalism. That's wild to me.
Well, not only doesn't the energy demand go away, it ought to get bigger because we ought to be bringing manufacturing back to this country. We have offshored things that should never have been sent overseas. Some of it is our computer manufacturing. That should not be in communist China. By the way, we use those same machines in our elections, and that is a fundamental security breach from the national security standpoint. You don't allow your computers to be built in a foreign communist country by communist workers. That should be done in the U.S., and those we need the energy. We need the capacity. We cannot produce and manufacture the transformers and the goods on wind power and solar power. We're going to need nuclear. We're going to need coal. We're going to need natural gas and petroleum for a long time and into the future.
I completely agree with you. And Colorado is such an energy resource dense area. I mean, if I remember correctly, we were even outside of Russia doing that secret CIA stuff. We were one of the main providers for titanium, even for the SR-71 project, right? I mean, we have the entire area of Space Command out here. We have so much high-tech resources out here, and we're just throwing it all away because of nonsense politics and the Democrat agenda and the establishment GOP that's more concerned about maintaining power for themselves than they are serving their own citizens. Right. And I think that's one of the biggest things that's a problem with Colorado is that we are mostly a massive conservative nation and our state and it's just we don't see those politics being enacted here.
I just wanted to mention this. This is the Halt of Dolores action that people are trying to keep the federal government from a 30 by 30 land grab. And that is what they are doing.
Can you talk more about that? What is this 30 by 30 land grab? Explain that for people who don't understand.
Well, the 30 by 30 is a globalist entity and a plan, an agenda. Basically, it's the Agenda 21. And It's the Agenda 21 issue where they're trying to lock up land and resources. And frankly, they want to diminish our farming footprint. They want to diminish our grazing footprint. And you mentioned titanium, and down in the Dolores Monument area, beautiful country, and the people that live there are maintaining it very well right now, thank you. To make it into a monument would be to bring in more infrastructure, put a government brown sign in front of it that says monument, bring in too many people too quickly. We could enjoy it more as in its current position, in its current condition. But they're also trying to lock up our uranium and our vanadium, and that is a big deal down there. And it's by design, not of American government, but of globalist government. And that's what the 30 by 30 land grab is part of.
And we understand, like, China's coming in, they're buying up our land, they're affecting our resources and everything else. And I know you're stretched for time. You're a really busy guy today. So if you could say a couple things to your constituents right now in this critical race leading up into Tuesday, what would you say to them? Why should they vote for you? Why do they need Ron Hanks and CD3?
Well, I've always been conservative. I have always fought for the Second Amendment. You know, what the Republican establishment is coming out with now is, Hanks ran in California in 2010. I did. I took a year off of my reserve duty and my deployments because I was fighting Obamacare. And you can still find my literature out there that says I was 2A, pro 2A. I was for one issue per bill for the U.S. Congress. I was for secure borders. I mean, I'm the same person now that I was back then. The Republicans are lying to the voters, trying to confuse them. It's a disgrace. I would say stand your ground, grassroots. I will not betray you. They already have. So we can win this race, and I think we're in good shape for it. Grassroots just has to stay on the rope and keep pulling. And a vote for me keeps a guy that has absolutely no positions on any of his websites or any of his shiny mailers you use to start your fireplace with. I mean, he's a trash candidate that's being propped up by these establishment dinosaurs and zombies that we thought we had buried. They were gone, and they've somehow resurrected, just like the Joe Biden campaign. He's got puppet masters behind Joe, and Jeff Hurd has got puppet masters. He's got no positions of his own. He hid from us, the candidates. He hid from the voters. It's a disgraceful operation, and then they dump money into it at the end, because he's the little pile of clay they're hoping to turn into an easy yes vote for the establishment deep state Republican Party.
And I'll agree with you. And I know, like I said, you're a busy guy. You got to get out of here. But as an intel guy as well, the best way we found terrorists, the best way we found the bad guys is follow the money.
Yeah.
It's never the people who are trying to do actual grassroots movement. Even that's how Donald Trump started. Donald Trump started as a grassroots movement. He self-funded everything on his own. And when I see hundreds of thousands of dollars in the last 72 hours being dumped into certain races, it makes me trust those people at a net zero effect. Yeah. You know, and it's no offense to Gabe. I know Gabe Evans is a fellow Army brother who's one of my helicopter pilots, but you know, he so-called gets a Trump endorsement, and then I find out that he says apparently to Trump's face on a phone call that he didn't really support his policies, didn't know where his endorsement came from. Hey, thanks. Anyway, and then he goes down and fundraises with Jeff Crank literally the next day with Americans for Prosperity. And then in your race, another couple $100,000 got dumped into your race in literally the last 48 hours. I sit there and go, there's something amiss going on here, and I don't trust any of it. And like I said, you're the guy doing the work. I don't see anyone else out here. I didn't see them crossing paths in D.C. And like I said, this is uncoordinated. I had no intention of scheduling this with you. And I'm just walking the halls of Congress. There's Ron Hanks. And I go to New Jersey to visit my mom and do some works with the veteran guys out here. There's Ron Hanks. I don't see Stephen Varela. I don't see Jeff Hurd out here. I don't see any of those people. So I want to thank you for putting in the work, Ron. You know, as a fellow intel guy, like, I appreciate the work you do. I understand you understand the national security issues more than anyone else. And I do wish you the best in the primary. I hope it all works out for you. And I hope people that are disaffected in the voting process in Colorado listen to this podcast. They spread it around as much as possible to get to know you in the 20 minutes we got to talk today.
I appreciate it very much. It's been fun. You're working hard too, and you're dragging all your gear with you.
Shit, so. I am. Like I said, I got work to do. We got a country to save, and it's not just in Colorado. I'm traveling around the country doing the work out here too.
God bless you for doing it. So thank you, Adam.
Thanks for coming on Tuxes and Tomahawks, Ron. I really appreciate it, and good luck with what you're campaigning for the next couple days here.
Let's roll.
All right.